Getting lots of people in and introducing themselves. So hello, everybody. Nice to see you all here today. We're in a different, we're in meetings format today, so maybe a little later we'll get to see some faces. But my name is Mary Collier. I'm the Professional Development Program Manager at the Ontario Museum Association. And I would like to welcome you to this asynchronous virtual school programming workshop today. I'd like to start by acknowledging that as an organization of provincial scope, the Ontario Museum Association recognizes that its members and community live and work on the lands and territories of Indigenous peoples. Toronto, where the OMA offices are located, is the territory of the Mississaugas of the Credit, Anishinaabe, Haudenosaunee, and Huron-Wendat. The territory is part of the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement and is also covered by the Toronto Purchase. I would like to acknowledge that I am participating today from Anishinaabe territory on land covered by Treaty 11. And as you participate today, we invite you to reflect on the land that you are on, who the traditional keepers of the land are, what the treaty relationship is, or if you are on unceded territory. So thank you all for being here this afternoon. I hope everybody is doing well and is ready for a good conversation. We'll be together for an hour and a half today. And the purpose of this workshop is to really explore some of the practical tips and tricks for creating asynchronous virtual school programs that really meet the needs of both teachers and your museums. And as you will have noticed when you signed in, the session is being recorded. However, we want you to know that only Christina's sort of presentation components will be made public following this workshop. So any of the participant discussion components will be edited out and not distributed. So we really want you to feel free to participate, bring your questions and comments, and those components of things will not be included in the recording. Christina will be sharing a lot of great information. There will be an opportunity for a discussion and some Q&A at the end, but if you have any burning questions as we go, please do use the raise hand function, which you can find in the reactions button at the bottom of your screen, or put your question in the chat with some asterisks next to it so we know that it's really a timely one, and we'll ask Christina to address it right away. And then at the end of the session, I'll make some quick announcements and we'll wrap up around 3:30. Although Christina has said that if there's more burning questions at the end, she can stick around for a little bit longer. So that's really wonderful. Let's see. As some of you have already started to do, please feel free to jump in and say hello to your colleagues. Let us know where you're joining from today in the chat. We will be monitoring the chat, myself and my colleague Megan Brome as well. And as we are in meetings mode today, I would ask that you just keep yourself muted while you're not speaking, just so that we can avoid any background noise. There are automated captions available that you can access by clicking the CC button at the bottom of your screen. And I'd like to mention that this is part of the Small Bites initiative. Small Bites, supporting digitization in Ontario's smaller and rural museums, is an initiative of the OMA funded by the Department of Canadian Heritage. And within this initiative, the OMA is providing accessible, high quality online training opportunities to build the digital capacity and skills of Ontario's smaller and rural museums, to increase accessibility to their collections through digital initiatives. And we look forward to sharing more news about other upcoming webinars soon, including next week's webinar with Christina as well. So please do stay tuned for that. We started this little kind of mini series on virtual school programming a couple of weeks ago. And if you missed that initial session about sort of things to consider when deciding if virtual school programming is right for you, please do go back and revisit the recording of that session with Christina, Karen Taylor from the Canadian Canoe Museum, and Michael Furtick from Connected North. And Christina also created a worksheet for that webinar that can help you through that decision-making process. And so my colleague Megan just dropped the link to the Small Bites webpage in the chat. And that's where you can all find all of the previous webinars and resources. So I have been mentioning Christina several times so far. I am talking about Christina Sidorko, who's the educational program coordinator. Ooh, here we go. You can see her in Zoom, but there she is too on the screen. The educational program coordinator at the Oil Museum of Canada. Christina was a speaker at our last webinar on May the 25th, and now she is going to get right down into the nitty-gritty of asynchronous programming and really get into a bit more of a how-to. So Christina, I will pass it over to you. Thank you.
Well, thank you so much for that lovely introduction. I figured today we're going to jump right into it. So I really want to encourage everybody to ask questions, but really we're going to look at what is asynchronous programming and how do you develop these programs and considerations that you need to keep in mind, from legal aspects to technical aspects to how do you create that type of interactivity for a high demand program. So I'm going to share my screen. So hang on 2 seconds. So there we are. We are into what is virtual programming, part 1. Like I said, I will be joining you again next week where we're going to do what live programming or synchronous programming. But this week, I really want to focus on asynchronous. This is where I got my start. And these are the things that I feel are important to share. So let's start right into it. So today's goals are, we're going to really discuss what is virtual programming, types of virtual programming, considerations that you need to make for school-specific programming as compared to programming that you might do for seniors or the general public. Defining asynchronous, and then going into 360 tours. And the information that I've gotten from your questions that we will be trying to address is advertising, monetization, and evaluation. We are all small museum and galleries, so it's really important for us to go, sometimes we have to make money to keep the roof and the lights on. We'll be discussing some of those things as we go through, and then I've thrown in a few extras because I got bored yesterday. So how do you take the virtual into the gallery? So if you've put all this time and effort, let's take a look at it. So what is virtual programming? Virtual programming is designing online meetings or activities that may or may not replace in-person activities. We really, at the Oil Museum of Canada, got our start doing this during the pandemic when we had to physically close our doors to the public. Not only did we have to physically close our doors to the public due to pandemic and health restrictions, but 6 months later, we started a massive renovation. So the Oil Museum of Canada was closed for a physical year to renovate, fix the roof, fix the foundation, put in a new vent system, all of those things that are quite necessary in a 60-year-old site. So these programs were designed to continue engagement with our audience and to really meet the needs of local teachers that were struggling during the pandemic. We are part of the community and we felt it was our job to help the community get through this really tough time. So digital transformation can take many forms, from enabling museum visitors to use smartphones and tablets to increase accessibility through your site and enhancing their experiences, to digitizing the collection, which is time consuming, but very valuable in the long term, and making it available online to engaging with people before and after. So really, this was a way to continue engagement with our audience, to continue to meet our mission to spread information about our historical site and the importance of natural resource development within our community and for Canada as a whole. We are the Oil Museum. It's a highly controversial topic, but we all drive cars and wear synthetic fibers, and it is something that is essential to our daily lives. But I'm not going to get into that talk today. So types of asynchronous programming. So when you think of asynchronous programming, there's a lot of virtual types of program. You can have point to point. So let's focus over here. You're going to hear me use these terms, and I really wanted to get into what is point to point and point to multi-point. Point to point is what Oil Museum is doing right now. which is the museum is using a virtual platform such as Zoom or Google Meet or Microsoft Teams to virtually interact or deliver content to a school. That's point to point. One, two. Point to multi-point is where asynchronous really shines. It's where it is delivering content from the museum, and you can go into multiple locations. So this is the museum to a teacher to 35 student homes or 25 student homes or 800. So this is how you get into multiple locations. So we did this during the pandemic, during the lockdowns, where we would be sitting in a room and delivering content that could be accessed by multiple points with just us. And you could do that live, or you could do that asynchronously. So what is asynchronous? It is a program that you develop that can be accessed by anyone at any point, and people can go through it at their own pace. It lives on your website, and it doesn't need you as a live person to always deliver it. And that's where it really shines for small museums. We don't have huge staffs. So we can develop these programs, build them in their entirety, and then the public can access them whenever it is right for them at whatever time, whether it's 7 in the morning or 7 at night, on a Sunday or on a Monday. These programs can be accessed and people can go through them. Synchronous programming is where I show up in a Zoom or a Google Meet. We also have demonstrations. These are pre-recorded, so pre-recordings, so demonstrations or live that you can load onto YouTube. You've got 360 virtual tours. How do you develop a 360 virtual tour? Is that right for your site? Is that not right for the site? And that really goes back to what are your goals for this programming? You also have virtual talks, webinars, and podcasts. All of these things are in that handbook or that package called virtual programming. And you may choose some of these for your site, or you may not choose some of these for your site. And it depends on, based on what we discussed in our last webinar, what are your goals? Do you want to reach a local audience? Are you reaching people that have physical barriers to your site? Are you hoping to really reach a provincial, national, or international audience? And what types are you hoping to do? And what are your goals for that programming? And then you got to think about how are you going to measure that program? Don't worry, I'm going to get into it at the end. So I'm going to throw this into, this is a Jamboard. So this is where everybody can get into it. So I copy, so you can see this is a very simple type of presentation. I'm copying the Jam and I'm going to throw it in the chat. All of you can click on the Jam and then you can add your comments. Okay, so you can add your comments and then we can all see it together. So what are your fears of virtual programming? And then I'm just going to have Mary give me a thumbs up if you can see my Jam.
It looks like you might have to make it open access.
Okay, hang on a second. Yep, I have it restricted. Anyone with the link? Done. So even though I've done a lot of these, I am still learning. Even though I do this every day, there are days where I forget to unlock my my Jams. So what are your fears for virtual program? What are the things that scare you? And hopefully this way, and Jamboards are a really kind of unique way of interactivity, especially if you're dealing with people who have anxiety or that quiet student or those students who tend, it's a great equalizer, especially if you're dealing with intermediate to senior students, in that because everybody is at their own device in a multi-point situation, it allows everybody to participate. So it can be a great equalizer.
I think we need editing access now too, sorry.
That's okay. There we go. I built it a couple weeks ago, and while I'm building things, I leave them kind of locked up. So this is a technical difficulty that you can experience on the fly. And well, not everybody has a Mary helping them. You do have teachers who are experts in this type of content, so that you can have access. So we have questions about it not being engaging enough. That's something I deal with all the time. I second guess every single one of my programs, and every summer, in about 3 weeks, I will be going through them with a fine-tooth comb going, what can I do to improve? What worked in sessions this year and what didn't? And one of the things that I do is I talk to teachers who've accessed my programs and say, what worked? What didn't? A lot of times it's technical issues, such as what we just experienced. And never be afraid of a technical issue. A technical issue happens to all of us. So the tech not working, this is why we test things. System crashes, happens all the time. You would be surprised at how forgiving an audience can be, especially students. Our audiences are very forgiving in this new technical, and they will talk you. There will be grade 2s that talk you how to fix what you've done. Time commitments. This is something that we struggle with. A good program does take time and effort. The curriculum, that's an easy thing to fix. You got to read the curriculum though. So it's not easy. I work at an oil museum. It is one of the things that is not in the curriculum, yet I have 9 curriculum aligned programs. What this requires is some very boring bedtime reading to read the curriculum and go, okay, what is the curriculum and how do we work with it? The Ontario curriculum was designed to be fairly vague. So it is vague in its design so that you can do anything to it. So that meant, well, the Oil Museum of Canada traditionally fixated itself as a history museum and a historical society. We really needed to think outside the box and lean into science and geography and English and figuring out these different curriculum strands where we talk about controversial topics and natural resources and the environment and geology. Developing only a program to fail to connect with teachers and schools. We're going to get into that. So I have some secret tricks for you. Software, I'm going to tell you, most of the Ontario School Board drank the Google Kool-Aid. All right, virtual burnout, I will definitely talk to you that. I've dealt with that, and I will talk about virtual fatigue, both on a school front and on a museum front. So this is really good. The reason why I wanted this interaction is I wanted to really connect with you as an audience, find out if your fears were the same fears that I had 2 years ago when I started this journey, and then so that we can make sure that we answer those curriculum or those burning questions that you may have. So back to the main site. We're going to go right over here. And yes, I love Moira from Schitt's Creek. So getting started, you can adapt any already existing program for the virtual environment. So what is your museum good at? Think about your site, your museum, your gallery, your historical site, and what is it that you do better than anybody else. With a virtual program, you are competing with the world. These teachers can access virtual content from Australia. They can access virtual content from the United States, from the Smithsonian or the ROM. They can access anything. So one of the key things that I've discovered is being really honest and unique to your site and what you're good at. I'm good at oil programming. So oil history, how does that connect? Well, that ties directly into the 7 and 8 program for early Canadian individuals and identity. It taps into natural resource development and controversial thinking and the environment and pollution and simple machines. The next aspect is once you've figured out what you're good at, you need to decide who are you designing for. And everybody always gets caught up believing that they're designing for students. Your target audience for educational programs is not the student, it's the teacher. You are marketing and designing for that teacher so that that teacher can take that program and put it in their classroom. I want to repeat that you're designing for a teacher because they're the ones that decide which programs make it into their classroom. So that is your primary target. With all of these virtual programs, especially with multi-point programs, you're going to have additional individuals that will be able to access these things off the open source web. You're going to have seniors, students, families, the general public. Everybody will also be part of your audience. But for marketing and selling a program, that target is the teacher because they're the ones that decide what goes on in their classrooms. They are the ones that decide which field trips do we pick. So that is who you are designing it for. And teachers take their jobs very seriously. So they need to make sure if it is an educational program, it is aligned to government standards, which means you pull a curriculum strand directly from the curriculum documents, copy it, don't edit it, don't do anything. If it says compare and contrast early settler houses from the 1700s, copy and paste it, that goes in your curriculum documents for justification for the program. Or are you talking about X, Y, or Z? If you're doing a simple machines program, are you talking about levers? You pull that line, that is your justification. And you make that very clear to that teacher. This is what it's justified and this is how it connects. Because that teacher is also going to take that to their principal to get approval. Really do your research, understanding your topic and understanding your audience. They want all the bells and whistles. Not every teacher is a history or a geography or a science specialist. They're jacks of all trades with limited time. So you need to do the work for them. You are selling a product. Whether you're actually attaching a monetary amount to it, you are creating a focused experience and learning program that is academically connected. So the curriculum documents are online for the Government of Ontario, ontariocurriculum.org or .ca or .on. And you find them, they're a PDF, you download them, you read them, and then you just start highlighting. And really, your program should have specific information that the teacher can't do themselves. Why are they coming to you unless you have a product that is unique to your site or your community that can encourage them and help them? This jam in the chat. We're gonna have to deal with the same thing I dealt with before. So let's put in the chat. Paste. I'm gonna go up here. And I think I made everybody an editor.
Looks good.
Looks good. I thought I had this all figured out. So what do you think are things that, so think about who is coming to your physical in-person and how you're going to do that in a virtual environment. So think about those in person. That's your primary audience. And then you're going to expand it. So what are some things that you need to understand about your audience before building a program? What their level of technical expertise is. Are you dealing with Ontario teachers? They're top-notch. All of them have been virtual. All of their students have been virtual. You really don't need to worry about that. Age. A program that is designed for a grade 12 is not the same program that you would deliver to a grade 3. Yes, there are curriculum overlaps. Early Settlers program, Canadian Continuity and Change deal with the same time periods. But some of the language that you will deal with is different. I am so happy somebody tapped in to learning difficulties. Asynchronous programming is beautiful in that it is an equalization. So you have a virtual program that students with anxiety can access from their homes and work at their own pace. Not only that, you can translate it in an instant using Slides Translator, which is an app that you can add on. So you can use Slides Translate. You can also audio dub. So if a student is doing this without an adult present, you can audio dub to equalize if they're visually impaired or have a low reading ability. You can read the slides to them and you can put alt text into your images so that the image can be described. There are so many tools to increase accessibility when you physically can't come to the site. I'm in the middle of an oil field. Buses are too expensive. So how do you get to access? A virtual program is a great equalizer. I can reach anybody anywhere. So technology, we love technology and I hate it. There is a great tool that is available to us called YouTube. And honestly, YouTube is my friend because I am not, despite the fact that I'm leading this program about virtual technology, I'm not a tech expert. I am your average high school teacher who watches YouTube videos, pauses them, does whatever the video said I should do, and then I go back. Different learning styles, age appropriate, knowledge of the subject. When you are developing a program for students, you are the subject leader. So if it is something about your site, if you're the Aurora Museum or the Ottawa Museum or Thunder Bay, what is unique about your site that you are the expert in? Because half the program is these people are not experts and you're providing that expert knowledge. So these are great things. So is it curriculum connected? Is it grade appropriate? So think about your own children or the children that you have attached to a meeting. Children are far more intelligent than we often give them credit for. They are very intuitive thinkers. They're very creative thinkers, and they're going to ask the deep questions that adults are often afraid to ask. So don't be afraid to use complicated language, but realize that a grade 1, 2, 3 has an attention span of 30 minutes and that everybody else can sit for maybe 45 minutes with a 15-minute Q&A. Speaking of that, I've had you sitting. We might want to incorporate movement. So do the big stretch, wave your fingers, and roll your shoulders, okay? Don't hunch. Sit up straight and stomp your feet. I often incorporate movement into some of my programs, such as if we're describing how to operate a sprinkle drilling rig, I have the kids do the movements, which is, it's like a giant Stairmaster. So lift your feet up and down and move on that Stairmaster or pull the pulley ropes to lift the tools out of a well. These are things that you can incorporate in your programs. We then need to think about deliverable outcomes. What is your deliverable outcome? what can you, as a museum educator, create, and what are your expected outcomes? If I'm designing a program, I only have 2 or 3 outcomes that I expect. So for an oil program from the Oil Museum of Canada, I expect you to understand that the first oil well in North America was in Oil Springs, Ontario. If you learn nothing else, that is my deliverable outcome. Or that you know what a seesaw is, or a lever, or a pulley. What are those deliverable outcomes? How are you going to test for them? Is there a worksheet in your program? The teacher's going to look for those deliverable outcomes too. So those things are communicated to your audience and to yourself. Is it entertaining? Is it fun? Do you have weird little gimmicky graphics? I do, mostly because not everybody wants to look at a picture of me for an hour. Owl me is way cuter. Is it interactive? Do you have Jamboards? Do you have, you can use a program called Slido, which has word building clouds. Do you have coloring sheets where you can digitally color? And build in movement breaks. The little guys can't sit still. And sometimes you can have a video or a song that you pre-record and you sing with the group. So if you are doing a toys presentation about the history of toys, you may include nursery rhymes or rote learning and as if you were leading the group. But it's all asynchronous, so it's pre-recorded. So what is an asynchronous program? It's self-directed. It sits on your website or virtual program. The beauty of this is that a virtual program, asynchronous, you build it and forget it. In some respects, don't physically forget it, but it doesn't need a physical person babysitting it all day. So you spend the time beforehand, behind the scenes, building these programs. In many respects, they're very fancy slide decks. All teachers love slide decks. They're fancy slide decks where you have put your content in. You have recorded your content, so you can record your engagement. You can use a website called Bitly. It's a link shortener. This link shortener, when you build your program, whether you use Google Slides or PowerPoint or Slido or Apple Slides, you can take these slides and you can throw them in a link shortener, and that link shortener will tell you how many times that program has been clicked on. This tells me, so we have for the geology program, it's got 924 clicks. That means that this program has been accessed 924 times, most likely by a teacher. So you multiply that by 24 and that tells you how many students have accessed it, because that teacher is going to share it with their class. So you can record how many people are accessing this program. Once it's built, there's limited staff involvement. You do not have to spend an hour a day delivering the content, which works really well for small museums, because you may have that person who is your educator, but also has to look after the front desk and may have to do some collections work, or you may only have 2 staff members. The beauty of this is you can work on it on your downtime, you can build it, and then you can launch the thing on your website or whatever platform that you choose. And then it does not need to be babysat. And like I said, they're very fancy slide decks. They're slide decks that you can add GIFs to, you can add audio to, you can add images to. They are slide decks that you can insert YouTube videos. So you can record your own recordings, put them on YouTube, put them hidden on YouTube so they're not available to the general public, but only accessible within your slide decks. Or you can do stop motion animations. The ability to use this type of technology is endless. And really it starts with something so simple as text on a screen with some images like you see today. And then you can layer other things on it. And as you go, you can learn more to access and develop these programs. And you can put interactive features so that you can get feedback from your audience. You can get feedback through Google Analytics. You can get feedback through actually just putting a SurveyMonkey on the back end or a Google form so that teachers can answer and go, did you like the program? What did you like about the program, and what did you not like about the program? And you can get that quantitative and qualitative data that we often need for CMOG grants or other digital grants that may be available to our sites. So this stuff is really, it's easy. You can do it because I did it, and you can have your summer students help you. So how do you build it? You write an outline. What are your goals? What is your curriculum? So that may sit down, you know your sites better than anybody else, but then you sit with the Ontario curriculum and go, where do we fit? Focus on what is interesting and separates you from the group, and make it accessible. Include GIFs, videos, hyperlinks, include sound bites, images. All of these things can be included into your programming. And sometimes it's just you hanging out. Our museum doesn't open till 11, so I'm there from 8:30. It may be just me goofing around with my coworkers, setting up a light kit and having limited tech. By limited tech, I'm going to really out myself here and say, when we started, we only had a camcorder. Okay, one of the old school camcorders. That's what we started with, and that's what worked for us at our site. And we were just playing around, and I would go have an idea. I'm going to talk about a rock today, and literally go try it out. And if it didn't work, well, I wasted an hour of my time and maybe my colleagues' time, and we had a good laugh, but we learned something. We learned, okay, camcorders make everybody turn Smurfy blue. One of the questions I got from when you're registering is, what digital platforms and tools do you need to use? You don't need all the fancy equipment, but it does help. Depending on who your local school board is, and sometimes this means you pick up the phone call and you call the board office and you talk to a super, or you talk to your community engagement officer, or you call up the nearest elementary school, and you can be as bold as brass and say, we want to develop educational programs. What platform do you use? And generally they'll tell you, whether they're Google schools. I'm in Lambton County, so LKDSB is a Google platform school. It uses the Google suite. But I deliver programs all over North America. So I had to be well adapted to Microsoft Teams, to Zoom, to these types of programs. But you can use Google, you can use Microsoft, you can use YouTube. YouTube's free, and if you get enough views, they give you money. We haven't earned any money yet. So you can, you can use those types of platforms, and they're generally free. You can create 360 tours using the Matterport platform. We're going to get into that in the next slide. You can use other free tools like Screencastify. Screencastify is where you have your slides and you can record the audio and move your mouse and manipulate it in a pre-recorded session and then launch it on your website. So that's called Screencastify, and it is a free add-on to any type of digital content. So whether you're using PowerPoint or you are using Google Slides. You can use Slido, which colleagues of mine have used, that creates interactive word clouds with polls. So you can add polls to these types of things. When you are doing live programs, polls are great for active engagement. You can use video editors. I use Premiere Pro. You can also use Premiere Rush. You can use any of the other ones. They do have a cost associated with them, and they do require some physical time to learn them. I am no expert, but I am a hack, which is I watch a YouTube video for how to fix the color, and it tells me how to do it, and then I go do it, and then I forget it immediately, and the next time I do a video, I have to go watch it. You can add titles, you can add links, you can add arrows using video editors for your YouTube content. And sometimes your virtual engagement may just be that. It may be you talking to a camera, loading it onto YouTube, and then sharing it on your website or sharing it with the schools. So if you're going to do an art talk about a particular piece of art, you can pre-record that and share it using that. So let me see if there's some questions in the chat. Oh, excellent. Some people are sharing where you can get the tech. I use Bitly as well. Bitly is a free. You can have a paid subscription. We use free stuff at the Oil Museum of Canada because budgets are budgets. And Bitly is a free, so bitly.com is a free link shortener. So you can take your big Google links for your slide decks, you put them in Bitly, Bitly will spit out a link, but you can go back to the site and it tells you how many times that link's been clicked on, and it gives you a geographic region and a tech region. Are people accessing this link on Google? Are they accessing it on Facebook or other social media sites? Or are they accessing it directly off your website? Other places may use, if you have a social media team for your organization, you may use Loomly or other types of link and data sharing programs. So there's Loomly, there's Bitly, and there are other different programs for tracking engagement with your digital content. But as you can see here, I love playing dress up, and we didn't have any fancy tech. We waited for a very sunny day at the correct time, and we went into the cabin to film how to make some Christmas ornaments. And using our very old camcorder. Today, through a MAP grant, we do have a proper camera now. But when we started out, it was just us goofing around. And I can't recommend enough lapel mics. When you are filming, old camera equipment has terrible sound. We have since discovered that part of the important tools for engagement with our digital content is using a lapel mic. So this is a microphone that we use when we are filming our little YouTube segments. I wear it and it plugs directly into the camera so that we have very good audio. And they have these little fluffles. So I can open it up here. So I don't know what the proper term is. We call them a fluffle. They're these little hairy things. And this is awesome when filming outdoors. You wear it like a brooch with your microphone in it, and it gets rid of the sound of wind, which is nearly impossible to edit out of things. But using some of those pro techniques really helps. And it's not too expensive. I think those were about $100. You can also invest in a Yeti Blue mic. So this is what we use for audio recording, for audio dubs, either in our videos or if I'm going to audio record directly onto slides. I would use a Blue Yeti mic. Originally, our museum didn't have it. We borrowed it from the library. So our local library system had a tech loan. So we borrowed technology from the local libraries. You can also make friends with the tech teachers at the school board and borrow stuff from them. And that leads me into 360 tours. So your site may not want to have an educational with learning curriculum, connection documents, developing worksheets and tests and quizzes and extension assignments, you may find that your virtual engagement is, we want a much vaster audience and we are closed either to a renovation or something, and we want to create a 360 tour. Keep in mind, when you're creating 360 tours, you might not get people come to your physical site. But if it is all about, we have a really cool outbuilding. So in this case, this is the oil, one of the oil pump houses on the side of the museum. We really want to share that. It's unique, it's something us, but it's not our main exhibit galleries that may have permanent displays or temporary displays. So you can do these 360 tours. And it's not that expensive. The platform that we use at our site is Matterport, but there are many different platforms. Matterport subscriptions start at about $10 a month. So it is accessible, and this is used regularly in real estate. So we're adapting technology that was not designed for a museum for museum purposes. So Matterport, you can pay Matterport, it's about $5,000. I don't have that kind of money to come in and do some immaculate stuff for you. Or you can do it yourself. So you can build your own, and therefore you own your digital rights. You will own your images. You can control how your images are viewed. And to let you know, this is me in the old gallery. I borrowed that camera from the school board because we didn't have any money at that time. And it was so new that the boss was like, is this going to work? Now you can use it do it on your iPhone. But this is a 360 tour. This is called a Theta 5 cam. It's little. We share one with our museum network here in Lambton County, so it's owned by Lambton Heritage Museum. They wanted to 365 all of their stuff, and then we borrowed it. And it goes on a monopod. The funniest thing is you need to run and hide because you don't want to be in the picture. So I wore all green one day when we were doing the outdoor exhibits because I had to hide behind a bush. And I didn't want to be seen, and the bushes are not rather big, or I had to hide behind an oil barrel. But I'll take you right into one of our tours. You can add a lot of content. This is the powerhouse at the museum, and you can add text panels with images. So you can click on it. It tells you all about what you're looking at. You can spin it in 360 degrees. You can close it off. You can look at this, and it works really well to have it just living on your website, or you can use it in a live program. So our powerhouse is turned off. We talk about the wheels, the gears, the bull wheels, the belts. We can talk about the age of the building. You can swing it around and look at all of our tools that are hiding in the building. This is actually the foot of the monopod. So you can look at the ceilings and you can see what a 100-year-old structure looks like that's been pumping oil for 100 years. And you can add sound in it. You can add audio in it. You can add text in it, so that you can add additional content to this and swing it around or turn it off. This is something that's accessible to anyone, and using simple tools. Yes, there are cans of, it is an oil museum, so we have oil everywhere. One of the hardest aspects about this, though, is light and shadows. Windows are a nightmare. And you can put that as an interactive component within your slide decks. So as we just saw, I clicked on it, you were all able to see it and interact with it. And this can be part of a live session, or it can be part of a self-exploration in an asynchronous, which is self-guided. So you put all the work into building all of these virtual techie things. You can then take these techie things, this content that you've built virtually and bring it into your museum. Once you learn to build virtual experiences, you can expand on those skills, because those skills are universal. And you can take that fancy Google slide deck and you can throw it on a touch screen, or you can develop virtual reality, or you can partner with other organizations to create virtual reality. So we at the Oil Museum of Canada, I'm going to brag for a minute, we've got a brand new gallery. It's awesome. But we have virtual reality within the site. We have so that you can fly down an oil well. You have interactive touchless walls. I wave at the wall and these things start animating, or the touch screens. So when you build these virtual programs, if you want, you can put them on an iPad or a touch screen or a computer monitor and have them in your galleries, so that if you're general public, not only do they live on your website, they can live in your galleries using simple coding. These are, this is the program that I've used, which is called Intuiface, and it creates interactive programs so that you touch on the program and it pops up and it takes you to websites, or it can take you to YouTube videos, and it then has that same interactivity that your virtual programs that live on your website do. So you can do these and then bring it into the gallery. So don't think that you're building this just for your website. You can bring this into your gallery to create and expand what is offered to your guests. So it doesn't have to be all or nothing online. It can also be something that once you play with it and you've gotten to experience it, you can bring it to your physical site as well, so that you can create a more visceral, interactive, engaging experience for those patrons that choose to visit your site. So this was yesterday. I got to play in the gallery. And there are pros and cons. Virtual reality is fun, but only one person can wear the headset at a time, unless you figure out how to cast to TV. So we are now playing with casting to the TVs, so that what I see in the Oculus is then casted to a big screen that, say, if I had a school group with me, one student would wear the Oculus and the other 20 students could see what was going on the big screen. So that these virtual things that you develop are very accessible. Digital tools and skill sets.
Good question.
Yeah, Mary.
Could you just repeat the name of the program that was in the bottom left of your last slide?
Intuiface.
Intuiface. Thank you.
Intuiface. So we've been playing with it at Oil Museum of Canada and Lambton Heritage Museum for about the last year. It's fairly user-friendly. It has an if-then style of coding. So if you press the button, then XYZ happens. So if you press, you can go to slide number 3. And if you press another button, you can play the video, or you can go to the website, or you can play games, or you can build puzzles. It's a really kind of interactive, and basically the skills that you develop to develop these types of programs, whether you're using Google, Microsoft, or any other slide decks, are then transferable to programs that you can use within your galleries. Or you can just put your Google Slides on an iPad. I've done that. It's awesome. One of the things that I heard when I saw your fears is museums have kind of like inferiority complexes and the desire to be perfect. And I'm giving you permission to not be perfect. This is a continuum. The first program you do will not be your best program, but your first program is a place to start. It takes time and energy to learn how to use technology, especially video editing, photography. Think about your first collections photos. They look nothing like the collections photos you may be doing now, where you have a light kit and a proper camera and you are using color cards. These things matter. And I'm giving you permission not to be perfect. I'm giving you permission to try and bomb. If you bomb and your curator gets mad, you can say, Christina from the Oil Museum said so. I will answer all the questions, and I will be your defender. But I'm not giving you my phone number to do that. And you need to make friends with failure. When it rains, play in the puddles. Technology will fail you at some point. Just get over it. It's going to, the Wi-Fi is going to cut out. The plumber's going to drop a smoke bomb. The museum's going to fill it with smoke. And you're talking to 35 kids in Alberta. Happened 2 weeks ago. And I didn't think I needed the special effects, but the plumber was fixing the toilet. And I prefer not to use a porta potty. Something's going to go wrong. And it does, because you guys are all experts here. You've all done live programs, in-person programs in your museum. And there's always that odd thing that you never expect to happen. It's the same in virtual program. Technology will fail you. There are some things you can do when you are setting it up. Cell phones are awesome. If you are delivering a program, you're emailing it to a teacher, get a phone number. Say, if it doesn't work, call me. If you can't log on, call me. I normally put the museum's phone number down. One of the things you also have to recognize is when it goes online, it lasts forever. So really take the time to review what you are creating before you post it publicly. Make friends with being silly and embarrassed. I am a mom. I speak funny. I tell inside jokes that I think are hilarious that nobody does. Not everybody loves my puns. Dad jokes are the best. You might as well laugh at some of your mistakes and play in the puddles. It is a learning curve. And over time, you will get better and you can delete those old experiences. While some remnant might live in somebody's hard drive, you are in control. So try to remember to laugh it off, get used to being silly, try. If it doesn't work out and you haven't published it yet, then it was a learning experience. And then you can move on and play in the puddles. I was trying to film a video about dinosaurs this day because oil is not made from dinosaurs. That's just clever marketing by the Sinclair Oil Company. And your plastic dinosaurs are not made out of real dinosaur poop. I couldn't film that day, so we played in the puddles. It's okay to try and not be perfect. It's okay to make something and it's good enough, but not perfect. Something is better than nothing. Super secret advertising tips. Build it and they will come only works in the movies. You can build the most amazing programs, and you guys are all probably going to build 1,000 times better programs than I do because you are super creative, passionate individuals. But one of those fears that you guys mentioned was, I'm going to build and put all this time and effort, and maybe 4 teachers sees it. So what do you need to do? You got to advertise. And that's part of understanding who your target demographic is. You are selling these programs to parents and teachers. And a lot of them live on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Social media are your best bets. So that means you are going to go after the professional teaching organizations on Facebook. You're going to go after OSSTF, ETFO, OHASTA, which is the Ontario Social Science and History Teachers Associations, or OGE, which is the Ontario Geographic and Environmental Educators Association. You're going to go after the professional bodies. If you have advertising dollars, spend it there. Also, word of mouth is your best friend and worst enemy. Word of mouth is your best friend because teachers are gossips. And I say that lovingly, having taught high school for 15 years. If they've got something they will tell everybody. They're going to tell their student teachers, they're going to tell their department, they're going to share with their teaching friends, because your goal was to create a package that made their life easier, that basically did their job for them. That's a complete package. It's got the curriculum, it's got the content, it's got the assessment strategies, which is a rubric and a worksheet and maybe a test or a quiz. You build that all in and you put it on Facebook. There are teacher Facebook pages. So these are the Ontario Teacher Resource Sharing pages. So this is Ontario Virtual Teachers Resource Sharing page. It's Ontario Virtual Teachers on Facebook. They're a closed group, so basically you need a teaching license. Some of you have those. If you don't, you make friends with somebody who does, or you ask special permission and you share your content there. Or you contact the school board, which is a pick up of the phone and you call, and you may put advertising dollars behind paying for Google ads, Facebook ads, Instagram ads that target teachers specifically, or target people in a certain demographic or in a certain geologic location. Facebook, the ads that you can purchase, $10, $50, they do have tremendous reach. And that is a good place to use some of your advertising dollars. But social media is your friend, and a chatty teacher is your friend. If you find those people that have accessed your programs and really enjoyed your programs, then have them write a review. Have them tell 5 teachers. And sometimes that may be having it right on the program. If you enjoyed our programs, tell 5 of your friends. If you enjoyed our programs, visit the site. Mine your previous program lists of emails. If you've had physical teachers in your building, email them. Email them, say, I got this great new thing, send out an e-blast, send out a newsletter. These types of direct marketing really work. They're labor intensive, but old school picking up the phone really does work. And building those relationships to contact those different organizations and those different groups. Those people and that method of understanding who your target demographic is really will help you. If your site is able, you can have free PD days. So on a PD day, you can make agreements with your local school board to host PD development, which is you invite the teachers to your site, you give them something to eat. Super secret tip, teachers will go anywhere if there's something free to eat. Just like all of us, feed them. They'll love you. They'll show up even if they don't care. And then they'll tell everybody, go to the oil museum. They have really good coffee and donuts. These types of accessibilities and engagements, it doesn't always work on a Friday night or a Thursday night. Try to get it during the day when they're paid to be there, or offer free admission to teachers for the month of September. And then tell them. Sometimes it's really, you've got to put the legwork in, and cold calls, and don't give up. Like if you talk to 3 supers and 3 supers hang up, go find the 4th super, go find the 4th principal. One of them will be willing to help you. Not all of them. If they're crusty, just let them be crusty. But if they're nice, that's your gateway in. So mine your email list, go after the professional organizations, find a chatty teacher that will share your information, but also don't be afraid to put a little bit of money, $50 to $100, $150 behind Facebook ads targeting educators, targeting EAs, going after that age demographic. Monetization. So a lot of you asked, how do you get payback on this? So if you're creating a fancy program, like I said, it's a fancy slide deck that's got worksheets, that's curriculum connected, that's got rubrics. Rubrics are the grading scheme. How do you market How do you assess it? These are kind of your educator things, and your extension activities. You can put it on Teachers Pay Teachers. So Teachers Pay Teachers is a website where teachers go and they buy lesson plans. They buy their lessons, they buy their units. And it's normally a 60-40 or a 70-30. Sometimes it's a 50-50 split where 50% of the money goes to Teachers Pay Teachers, and then you guys get a check in the mail. And you can sell these programs for $5, $20, $50, whatever you decide. Keep in mind that on Teachers Pay Teachers, the average lesson plan is selling for $2 to $5, but it is North America wide. And there's a lot of Canadian content on there. If you have something that you feel really passionate about, that you're like, this is awesome, and the boss says that we have to generate some revenue, you can put it on Teachers Pay Teachers. You just fill out the forms, you add the stuff, you upload it, and then you get checks in the mail. So Teachers Pay Teachers is, it's a commerce site that teachers go to pay for it. You can set up on your website paywalls. So just like newspapers have paywalls to access content where you give them the first slide and then you have to pay for access, you can do that. Paywalls with passwords, or you can sell passwords. So you can have your site, certain sections are password protected, or you can sell subscriptions. So you can have a subscription-based model. Keep in mind with subscriptions, you need to be continually generating new content to justify that subscription. So if you have teacher memberships that you're selling a subscription to or a membership, then you need to be having new content come out that justifies them paying for it. Because the first thing all teachers do is they make their own personal copies. So if you have a teacher membership or a teacher subscription to your lesson plan bank or to your asynchronous program bank or your virtual bank, say that if you sign up for a teacher membership or you pay for the subscription to our educational database, then you can access or download 5 lessons and you get 2 lives, or you can have you get free membership to the museum and all X, Y, and Z. That is up for you and your board or your team to decide what goes in that membership and what to charge for it. But you can do that. You can also charge flat fees. So in order to get the programs, you would email the museum. We would then email you the program. To pay for the program, we send you an invoice. The invoice is like $5, $10, whatever you can justify, $50, however you want to do that. And how much you charge depends on what you need to break even or generate profit. We've only been doing this for about 2 years at our site, and we are associated with the library system. So Oil Museum of Canada is tied to a library system, which gives away all of its programming for free. Because we are tied into that as cultural services, our programs are all free. We are investigating how to start charging and what would be appropriate fee-based. But my experience as a teacher and talking to my education colleagues, most of them are going to be paying for this out of their own pockets. Teachers do not. There have been a lot of cuts to education and they don't have budgets, especially the elementary panel. They may have $100 per classroom for supplies. So the teacher will be paying for this out of their own pocket. So keep in mind when you are delivering these programs that it needs to be revenue generating for you, but it also needs to be affordable for them because they will be paying for it. So you need to really figure out how much time and effort have you put into this program and what do you need to be your payback. So if you put 30 hours into developing this programming, filming, recording, editing, translating, then think about, okay, what does the museum need back? And that might be your salary, or you can also really look into sponsorships. So there are many local corporations that want to be local friendly and help out. So you can talk to your local corporations. Is there an insurance company that wants to sponsor a program so that that program is free to everybody? Is there, you know, a political organization? I know that's touchy, but is there some group or organization that wants to? Is it the Rotary? Is it the Lions? Is it going to be some other charitable organization that will sponsor your programs? So a sponsorship really then allows you to deliver the content to your target audience, teachers and students of Ontario or Canada, at no charge, but then you've covered your background. So thinking about those opportunities as well, particularly if you're dealing with natural resources or something like that. I always want a sponsorship, and so far have yet to convince any oil company to sponsor me. One day I will convince them to crack open their wallets. So thinking about this in a variety, this is just as much effort as generating the content. And that's really what you're doing, is you're generating content and you have to sell it. So teacher memberships, flat fees, invoicing, paywalls on your website, teachers pay teachers. That's just kind of, once you've built it, that's a no-brainer. It's passive income at that period of time. And really that's one of the points of asynchronous. It is passive programming. It is passive revenue generating once you get into these types of situations. Evaluation of program. So one of the things is, did your program meet your personal goals? So what was the goal of your site for developing this program? Was it to get local content in local schools and then generate more in-person field trips? That's what happened with us. We were listening to the cries of our teachers, thinking we as a community needed to help. And one of the byproducts of this is we now have a terrific relationship with our local school board. They were able to say, it's LKDSB, so it's Sarnia. But if Toronto is accessing this, and if Toronto has booked this, and Ottawa has booked this, then it must be good content because these bigger cities have accessed it, so therefore we're going to buy into it. That, unfortunately, that's the mentality of my community. Anything Toronto does is way better than what we do. So by getting other schools on board and showing the value of our programs, we were able to develop this relationship with our local school board. And it now led to, we have more in-person programming with the school board. So we now have schools, because they got to know us, know, okay, this is what they offer. This was a low risk opportunity. And now we're going to travel. We are going to get on a bus and go 30 minutes to go to the museum. And it's generated this really goodwill. And one of the problems with the Oil Museum of Canada is nobody knew we existed. Like, we're a National Historic Site, but I don't know how many of you knew we existed. So part of this was to create awareness of our museum. So that was our goal, and it worked. People now know we exist and that we have educational programs. We also used BitLinks to track data point clicks. How many people are accessing our programs? How far are these programs? Where are people accessing them? Are they accessing them in North America? Are they accessing them in France? Are they accessing them in Salt Lake City, Utah? Believe it or not, yes, they are. So using BitLinks and surveys, you can use a Survey Monkey. You can just have Google Forms on the last slide of all my programs has a teacher survey. They don't always fill them out. So think about, I've had 900 clicks on that program, but only 30 surveys. You can track YouTube videos. So if you embed YouTube videos into your program, you can track how many times those YouTube videos have been viewed. And that tells me, okay, that video has been viewed 200 times. That means that it's been watched that many times. You can track web traffic to your website using Google Analytics. Personal feedback from participants. I call people up. So if I don't track emails, but I know, okay, Amanda has accessed the program. She's one of my friends. She's in Ridgetown. I'm going to pick up the phone and ask Amanda, what do you think? And I'm going to talk to school boards that have accessed the program or have recommended our program. What did you think? So you can get that and active engagement during programs. So these are ways that you can evaluate the success of your program and do some data analytics for how do you track. I know. So Nicholas, I just saw your comment. I love it. I am personally outraged that people think Toronto's better than Sarnia. Come on, we have bridge fries and we have smelly ground. You can't get over the visceral experience that you can get at the oil museum. It's smelly. You can smell the oil coming out of the ground. I'll let you touch it too. Final notes. I built my avatar. So see this lovely creature? Looks nothing like me, but I enjoy cartoons, and cartoons are very accessible to a lot of students. And you will notice teachers all have avatars. These are called Bitmojis. It's a Google plugin. It just sits at the top of my Google bar. I dress her up, I change her makeup, I change her hairstyle. I felt green today. I'm wearing a green shirt. She's wearing green and matching shoes. You can build these to look like yourself if you don't want to put your own images. There's also a fun, sneaky website called remove.bg. It will remove the background off of anything. This is glorious for museum people that are doing collections photos. It will remove the background and turn it into a PNG file. So you can pick it up and drop it in. In a lot of my programs at the Oil Museum of Canada, you will see actual artifacts from our collection. I took a picture of an artifact, I removed the background on it, turned it into a PNG file, and you can drop it in your slide deck. And you can decorate your slide deck, and then you can use polylines. Polylines is a line that you can cut out, and when you click on the button, it'll take you to the catalog card, or it'll take you to information about that artifact. You can make things more accessible to students with learning disabilities by audio recording or translating. When you were dealing with TDSB, I often was asked to go into ESL classes where students were recent immigrants, or English was their second or third language that they were learning. And I deal with a lot of technical terms. Not everybody understands petroleum or pump jack. So you can take that, and in Google, if you use Google or Microsoft, there are different apps or add-ons that you can have these extensions. And one of them was Slides Translator, which is basically Google Translate. And you just click on the slide and it'll automatically translate the whole kit and caboodle. Is it perfect? No. But with an ESL class where you are learning your third or fourth language, it is very helpful to have content that is in your language, whether that be French or Spanish or Arabic or Russian. It's an easy way to make things accessible. You can also use free open source online voice recorders. You just plug your microphone or use the laptop microphone into your computer, and it's a website, and it downloads an MP3 file. That MP3 you can then insert. So you can find, it'll just be a microphone icon, and you click on it and it'll read your slides that you've recorded in your own voice. I don't speak French, but I have all of my slides recorded in French by using a volunteer to read my slide decks and recording her voice to overlay it. You can create your own GIFs using Giphy.com. So if you take a video of something you think is really cool at your site, or you want a video of you going, ooh, ooh, you can record that and then take a snippet and create a GIF, and you can insert those with image insert into any slide deck, whether you're using Slido or you're using Google, or you're using Microsoft Teams, or you're using Apple. These things are, once you learn one, they're all very similar to do these types of insertations. This is my contact information. If you have any questions, don't be afraid to pick up the phone. I'm your friend and colleague. I don't have a huge amount of time, but I can answer some quick questions and help you get you started. Thank you for that. This is what I wanted, is to share my experience. These have been my experiences, and no way does your virtual programs have to look like mine. Mine are what I came up with when I didn't know what virtual programming was. So this was my take on it. But you guys can come up with your own takes, your own layers, your own unique things, and really think about what is it that we love and that we do well. And that's what you can deliver, and that's what you can excel in. And all of us little museums can be fancier than Toronto, which I want to visit.
All right, I guess we will wrap things up. So I want to say a very big thank you to Christina for just laying it all out there and being very open and honest about all of this, and giving some really practical and useful information, and the permission to give it all a try. I think that's really important. So thank you so much, Christina, for sharing with us today. And thank you everybody who signed in and participated. It's wonderful to have a group together. As I mentioned, Christina's slides, we will distribute those out to all the registrants, and we'll put them on the website as well. This recording is going to take a bit more time to edit, obviously, than some of the other ones. So there will be a bit of a delay on that, but we'll get that out as soon as possible as well. And you can come back next week when Christina is going to talk about synchronous programs, so the live programs, this kind of stuff that we're doing right now. And so we'll get into more of the details of the how-to of the synchronous virtual school programs. So the link to that will be in the follow-up email as well. And so, as always, when you leave this webinar, you will be directed to an evaluation form where you can tell us how we did today and what you want to see more of. We also have in there a list of other potential webinar topics within the Small Bites series, and we'd love to know what you might find most useful, or if there's any that are not on the list, please let us know. And I want to again thank the Government of Canada for its support of these Small Bites initiatives. So thank you everybody for being here today. Thanks again, Christina, and hopefully we'll see you all again next week.